Welcome to Brock and Talk. Today we're going to be talking about organizational culture. My name's Alex Causey.
I'm Colton Coffin.
I'm Connor Culleton.
I'm Mackenzie Craig.
I'm Kyle Charco.
Alright, so organizational culture is defined by Edgar Sheehan as a pattern of basic assumptions invented, discovered, or developed by a given group as it learns to cope with its problems of external adaptation and internal integration. That has worked well enough to be considered valid and therefore to be taught to new members as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems.
Don Jen, a reputable Chinese researcher, states the culture of an organization within sports proves to be one of the most vital aspects within the industry. An organization's culture helps a better flow of communication and ideas, helps better the relationship of employees, and empowers staff competitiveness.
As staff members become more cohesive, the overall culture improves, and thus an increase in organizational efficiency. Similarly, managers need to be able to understand exactly how to build a positive organizational culture. Culture is put into effect from the top of the organization down to the bottom, and without an effective culture, staff are less likely to be committed and passionate to the overall organizational success.
As managers introduce initiatives in order to help improve organizational culture, the ideals and values of the team become transparent and taken up by all members. The culture of an organization heavily depends on each member helping to develop a strong culture in order to help achieve all set goals.
From this definition of organizational culture, we'll pick apart the definition and relate it to our situation with Sport Canada.
I got the amazing opportunity to work at Sport Canada in the summer of 2018, but under the branch's circumstances that were going on during this time and how my manager was placed as acting director general, I could not receive the best mentoring and training for the first few weeks of working there.
The issues that came from the situation were the lack of leadership, guidance, and cohesiveness. This can be attributed to the definition and what needs to happen to fix this problem. Looking at our problem as it relates to organizational culture will also allow us to draft solutions and ways that Sport Canada can improve their future problems.
We will examine the organizational culture of Sport Canada and how our issues relates to the organizational culture within Sport Canada. Then elaborate on how the issues arose, how it was handled, and how the issues finally was resolved.
We will then look at the pros and cons of the situation as it arose and then conclude by examining the positive and negative aspects of the outcome of the issue.
Sport Canada, which is a branch of Canadian Heritage, is the single largest investor in Canada's sports system, providing funding for initiatives to support our high-performance athletes and to promote sport participation among all Canadians, from playground to podium.
In the summer of 2018, Sport Canada's Director General Dan Smith retired after being in the position for a couple of years. With Dan Smith's retirement came a big organizational culture change within Sport Canada, since employees had to get used to a new management that was coming in.
After Dan Smith officially retired on June 22nd, there was a period of over a month that Sport Canada was without a set Director General, as they were still in search for the right person that could lead the branch.
So Davis states, for any new leadership taking over the responsibility of an organization, understanding the culture will ultimately determine the success or failure of the organization and the leader. The importance of understanding an organization's culture cannot be underestimated. This is why it is important to wait to not hire a new Director General right away.
So during this time frame, Sport Canada's Associate Director General, Marie-Josée Dion, was placed as Acting Director General for the time being.
This was hard for the branch since Marie-Josée Dion had her own duties as Associate Director General that needed to be taken care of on top of the Director General's obligation.
Being a new employee with very little experience working in a government-type office, it was difficult to feel like an important member and contributor in this organization, as employees were all very busy while trying to cope with the changing culture that was taking place during this time.
During this time, the leadership roles in the organization had to be more evenly distributed. Shatwani states, this calls for leadership and followership in dynamic harmony. Through such relationships of interdependence, leaders and followers co-create enduring value at the heart of the transformative change process of their community.
These periods of change in leadership also helped employees band together and become more unified as their responsibilities increased.
Once the new Director General was hired, they were able to come into a stable environment where they would be able to help and lead where they see fit because of the work done by the employees before they were hired.
So now we're going to be discussing some of the positive aspects of the situation. So firstly, an environment is created which allows for new, incoming, and external employees to feel more welcomed. Also, the environment is more open and inviting by nature, which allows for newcomers to feel more widely accepted and willing to offer new ideas, which could help benefit the organization's culture and the organization overall.
Secondly, employees feel like they play a more vital role in the organization and feel as though the contributions they make are more effective at pushing the organization towards missions, goals, and objectives. This could be described as more of an entrepreneurial feel for the employees because it seems as though their decisions are more personalized towards their own vision.
And finally, the situation helps long-standing employees expand their roles and learn how to adapt to changes in their environment. And now we're going to be looking at some of the negative aspects of the situation. Firstly, the organization may suffer due to a lack of leadership and direction without a figurehead to organize themselves behind. The direction of an organization is easier to follow when someone is leading and providing a clear mandate of how they're expecting the organization to operate.
If the organizational culture has become stale and unfitting of what is necessary, then bringing in external management can provide a necessary change for the organization and shake up the norms.
Having someone step into a high leadership role when there is change going on can disrupt employees from a culture standpoint if changes are made while the position is still being filled.
Before we conclude Brock and Talk, now we are going to be doing an interview with Dan Smith, the former Director General of Sport Canada. What steps did you take to help build an organizational culture during your time as Director General?
As Director General. So first thing I should say is that I came back as Director General back in March 2017, and so I was in that position for about almost 2 years by the time that I left, or maybe a year and a half. But so there's elements of an organizational culture that's already there when you arrive, and and you're also in an organization like Sport Canada. You're basically working in a structure that's based on the way the federal government is organized. So there's a values and ethics code that the government of Canada has, and you're also in a department that has its organizational culture. But anyway, some of the things that when I came in, there had been a process that had been going on for about 6 months before I arrived, and it was involving all of the staff taking a look at some of the issues that existed in the organization, and then looking at what some possible solutions might be, and how we might go about trying to strengthen the organization for the future. And so, like I say, all of the staff was involved in those different exercises, and we're contributing to what would become the values and the expected behaviors for the organization, basically. And so my job was to try and build on that work and continue it while I was there as Director General.
Were there any issues that arose during your tenure that you had to resolve as a product of weak organizational culture?
And I think any organization that's been around for a while, and people that have been around for a while, there are certain built-in ways of doing things or operating, and when you want to bring in a changed organizational culture, it's going to take some time. And so for sure, over the course of my tenure while I was there, there would be times when issues would arise, and it would be a reminder to us that we weren't doing a good enough job of communicating, keeping people informed, and sometimes having to hold people to account for maybe not living up to the respectful workplace that we were trying to promote. We have a cat meowing in the background. But in any case, tried to work on some of those things, and we had a lot of opportunities to bring the staff together to share information, make sure that everyone was aware of what was going on across the organization, and that we weren't operating as stovepipes or cliques or anything like that, that everyone felt that they were part of the team and they were empowered to contribute to the goals of the team.
What advice would you give to a new employee of Sport Canada in terms of adapting to their organizational culture?
And certainly any new staff person that comes in to an organization, there's a transition period for them, an orientation to how the organization operates, who the people are, and you make sure that with their direct manager and with other people, that those people reach out to the staff person early and often, and welcome them into the team, and then provide as much information as possible, and hopefully that helps a person adjust to the culture of the new organization that they've just joined. I think any person, if they were asking my advice, I'd encourage them to read as much as they can about the organization, like looking at some of the organization's documents, like strategic plan that they might have, or the Values and Ethics Code for the Government of Canada, those kinds of things. Get information from the results of recent all-staff retreats or all-staff meetings, and try and meet some of the people, get to know some of the people on the staff as early as possible. And then as managers, what we need to do is make sure that we provide opportunities to have them participate as much as possible in providing input to the organization and feeling a part of it right from the outset.
To conclude Brock and Talk, Stewart explains that an essential factor for having someone stay in a long-term leadership role in an organization is if they fit in. This means that the person in the new leadership role, whether it be a director general, a president, or team captain, needs to fit into the unique and different culture that each organization has.
Although this was a difficult time for Sport Canada, it was important that they hired a new director general that was able to quickly adapt and fit in with Sport Canada's organizational culture. To efficiently and effectively reach the common goals of an organization, a strong organization culture is necessary to convey to all employees.